Welcome to the Peaked podcast, where I talk about gender identity ideology and other bad ideas, women's rights, and free speech from a European point of view. Good morning to Alison and Tonje. Tonje, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes.
I'm not
Good
supposed to
morning.
good morning. I'm not supposed to, there's no particular Scandinavian pronunciation of Tonje. I bet you there is.
Yeah, but Tonje is totally okay.
I thought so. Alison, you're in the UK?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and Tonje, you are in Norway, if I remember, or Sweden. Which one is?
Norway.
You're in Norway. Did you, you were involved early on in teaming up with people in Sweden, am I right? Because I remember we spoke a
Yes.
few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you
That's
mind
right.
just tell me a little bit of your background for people who don't know? So I know you a little bit, so maybe you can just give a quick intro, your elevator pitch of yourself. Do you want to go first, Tonje?
Yes. So I'm when I was a child, I was a tomboy. I was really into sport and things like that, and I quite early understood that I fall in love with girls, not boys. And it was easy because on the football team it was a lot of other girls who fell in love with girls like me. So I kind of had a community since I was like 13, 14 with young lesbians. I was like, I became an artist and I have always and I also wrote in the newspapers about issues about women and lesbians and all these things, and quarreled with gay men because gay men and lesbians, they are really different when it comes to politics and things like that and culture. But I've been part of the gay and lesbian community since I was 16. And then suddenly in 2017, 16, 17, I noticed that Julie Bindel was cancelled from a women conference for the Socialist Party, and then I just knew something was wrong, and I just started reading and started writing about in the newspaper, and then parents
So that was
who had, like,
2017. That was
Yes.
2017. You were an early TERF. That was very early days.
Yeah, but I think I was early because I have been part of the gay and lesbian community, so I noticed patterns. Also, I had like this, I have this lesbian performance collective, and we were like having concerts around the world, and we noticed people talking about queer, talking about call me with pronouns and things, and we were just like, what is this? But it was the first time I really took it serious was when Julia Bindel, who is like she's the strongest voice on what harm surrogacy and prostitution does to women, and it was the Socialist Party canceling her. So then I just knew something is really wrong. And then I started writing in the newspaper, and of course got attacked, especially by lesbian and gays communities. And yeah, lots of things happened, and it was quite some hard years. They also attacked my wife and tried to take away her livelihood for 2 jobs. But no, I'm here, and I was like the LGBT Lions. I was like reported to the unit of hate speech police, and for saying men can't be lesbians, men who imitate lesbians or fetishize lesbians are perverts. And then the LGBT Alliance, they just picked me. This news got around the world, and they called me, and we had a chat, and they organized together with the lesbian neighbor. They organized this lesbian not criminal roadshow, and this is where I met young girls. They approached me, and they described their situation in this age of gender identity. And then also I just found Alison on TikTok. She's a fantastic TikToker, so I contacted her and asked if she wanted to be part of this project. So that was like the really fast thing.
Alison Ellis. So you were found on TikTok by Tonje. Can you give me similarly how you got into this, how you got to this point that we're sitting here talking together on my podcast
Yeah,
today?
so around 15 years old, I faced some really bad bullying in high school because I was a lesbian, and I felt very isolated. And as a result, I struggled with my mental health, and then I got told by the doctor to see the school counsellor, who then recommended for me to go to the local LGBT youth group. And when I went there, the first thing that they asked was, "What do you identify as, and what are your pronouns?" And to me, it made absolutely no sense, because I knew exactly that a lesbian was just a homosexual woman, and it scared the heck.
What year was that? Sorry to interrupt, Alison.
That was around 2016, I think. So
Right.
it was quite a while ago.
Okay. So already in the LGBT groups, they were already on the identifying as.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Uh,
And that was in the north of England somewhere
it was,
by
yeah.
the sounds of your accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so anyways, I felt like the only lesbian in that group. All the rest of them were identifying as non-binary or trans or pansexual or demisexual, and it made no sense. And we even got like these colouring in sheets with all the flags on, and I didn't have a clue what all this was. So I didn't last very long there. And the next day, the leader of the group and the school counsellor and one of the members of that group told me not to come back, but I assumed that it was because I didn't understand the flags and stuff. They didn't really say why, but I thought it was really weird. And ever since then, I've been really hesitant to go to stuff like that. And then,
Okay, yeah, I read your story in the book. Yeah, you were the one who was told by like 3 different people in the not to come back. Yeah, and what did they say to you?
they didn't really give me a reason why, but I thought it was really strange. I just got a vibe that something was off in it. And I think that's a really important thing to trust, that there's something not right with it, because um, it's very easy to get misled by like the gender identity stuff. But anyways, after university, I tried going to Pride and this meet-up event at the sculpture park to find other lesbians. And I found a woman there who I really liked. I found her very attractive, but she used he, him pronouns and a male name. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But anyways, she started talking about these evil TERF lesbians in this other group. And I'm like, what the heck is a TERF? So I went back home and I Googled what a TERF was. And I started seeing like these screenshots of lesbians being called TERFs by these trans activists who are trying to pressure them and say that men can be lesbians. I'm like, no, this isn't right. But I kept pushing a bit further. And on YouTube, eventually, Magdalene Byrne's videos popped up, and I watched them all. And I'm like, wow, my mind is blown, because I'm not the only one that feels this way.
And did you immediately feel connected to that?
I did, yeah.
Or was your first initial reaction wasn't like, "Oh god, I don't want to be thought of as part of that group." You were more the opposite. You were like, "Oh, that's me."
Yeah. Like a lot of what she said made absolute sense. And I feel like that direct and factual language is very important for getting through to these young people that may be misled into believing that they're born in the wrong body and stuff like that. But yeah, Magdalene's videos, I got this huge feeling that I was really angry the way that she was like cancelled because of what she said. And I'm like, I'm not standing for that. And that's when I started going on like Twitter and then on TikTok. So I know, like, my TikToks are not in any way perfect. I was just kind of winging it, but I felt like it was just too important to ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. This is like, honestly, the thing that I want to understand more than anything is why you will come across this phenomenon and go, no way.
Yeah.
And I am gonna get on straight on TikTok and put myself out there and tell everyone why this is really wrong. Whereas other people would not do that.
Yeah.
So the other people are having the exact opposite reaction. And to my dying day, I will try to find out what it is. And I just, because it upsets me a lot that we can all be presented with the same information. It really destabilizes me that we're all presented with the same information and that it's a fork in the road. You either go with the truth and you pick a group that you care about, or you just explode all reason and rationality and you go down this crazy trans belief road. So you wrote a book together. You put a book together. From what I understand, Tonje, it was your idea originally. The concept was yours. I saw in the book. I really like it. It's a collection of stories, first person stories from 19 different lesbians. It'd be basically coming of age or being a young lesbian in this crazy era. I have a very good reason that I have decided why this book is so important. What's your reason? Why is this book so important to you to make right now?
So I felt that this book was incredibly important because it shows 19 stories of young women, young lesbians in the face of gender identity. But when you read them all, you feel less alone as a young lesbian because a lot of them have their own individual voice, but they all have similarities that unites us as young lesbians. And each one is really resilient and they trusted their gut that something wasn't right. And I feel like that is the most important part about this, that there are young women out there that are resilient enough to know that something's not right with it. And the way that they have this sort of clear sense of who they are deep down and that they didn't let all the pressure get to them as well. I think it's just so great reading them all.
So was your intention to reach out to other women and girls who were basically feeling very
Yeah.
alone, and so they can say, look, there's a lot of us, right? So the mission then is to get this book into their hands, basically. That's going to be difficult though, considering the environment, let's say. Before we get on to that, Tonje, I'm going to put your face in the center of stage and I'm going to ask you the same question, right? So I think this book is important for a particular reason. Why did you think it was an important thing to make right now?
I think it's important because the voice of young lesbians who instinctively know that something is wrong, who instinctively know that men can't be lesbian, it's important to give those voices a platform so that other lesbians know that they're not alone. And that is also really good about this book because the lesbians in the book, they didn't know each other. They weren't aware of other lesbians who felt the same way. So for them when they get the book and read the 18 other stories, it's really, I'm not alone anymore. And it gives them strength. And I think for me, it's much of the same as Alison says. It's like we all know that it's important for young people and especially girls and lesbians to take care of themselves and not let anybody break their boundaries. And I think these girls who have written their stories with their own words, they have some kind of instinct, and they also have this integrity that even though they have been pushed by the LGBTQI groups who are supposed to be their group, taking care of their boundaries and interest, they have stood tall in some way against this wall of often mob harassing and vilifying them. And then they have insecurity, of course, comes along with that, and they have isolated, and then they have done like Alison said, they have Googled TERF and transphobes, and they have found lesbians like Julie Bindel, like Julia Long, Magdalene Burns, me, other lesbians, and they like have then their understanding of the situation and what is happening is like confirmed, so they know they can trust their instincts. And I think
Yeah.
like you say, I think it's so in a way not understandable, that because we have had Me Too, we all know the importance of boundaries for young people, and especially girls and lesbians, and we all react when men are like pushing heterosexual women with these boundaries, but in some way it's like nobody connects how this to
It's
try
the
to
same
break.
thing.
Yeah,
It's the
it's the
same
same
thing.
thing. Yeah, and when girls, when they're not able to trust or have their boundaries, they are not able to take care of themselves and protect themselves from people you really should protect yourselves from. So, but it's this mix of trust your instincts, you're not alone. And what also happened was like they found a community out there because of all the tracks and traces, all the lesbians and women from who have fought this for years have left in the web. So it's like then they have found these communities where
Are
lesbians
you
and
talking
women.
about the community that's been created out of this project, you mean, or you're talking
No,
about
it's
all the
like
TERFs?
all the terms like Women
Mm.
International Declaration, Let Women
Mhm.
Speak, LGBT Alliance, all these separate lesbian groups, like because they live in different places, so it's like it's hard to find others, and but because of the traces in the web, they are able to find their
Mhm.
tribe in a way, you can say.
Mhm. Yeah, so we want to be able to confirm to other lesbians that they are not alone in feeling the way they feel, and also that the things that they're thinking are valid, and that they should trust their instincts. And if they can see, because this is such a huge part of it as well, is like you look around at your peers. I mean, we're just monkeys, aren't we? We're just like everyone is just trying to be accepted into the social group. Like it has to be that, because I have no other explanation. It's just pure acceptance or social identity or whatever. When I saw this project, the first thing I thought was, great, another historical record, because I feel these projects like this, I see them as kind of just receipts, you know? I feel like, yes, it happened. Yes, there were people affected. Yes, it was real. So I'm talking about outside the lesbian community now. I don't want anyone to be able to say in the future that didn't happen, or nobody felt that way, or you're just exaggerating. No, absolutely not. So when I saw the project, I was really happy, because the more we can, it's also a beautiful project, an art piece in itself, but the more we can get down on paper about what actually went on in this period, the better. So it's a super, super good project. And I know how much work these things take. So really well done and getting it all together. Just onto that question of why why some young lesbians go along with this. Can you give me any insight at all, any anecdotes or any stories or any personal experiences you had that give you any insight as to why some lesbians are going along with this? Like, what is your best guess? And I'm talking especially about older lesbians, because young women, we are, fairly eager to please, maybe, or a bit more prone to social contagion, perhaps, some of us, all those theories. But older women, like, I went to the European Lesbian Conference, which is this big, huge NGO that gets loads and loads of money, gets millions in funds from the European Union to represent lesbians. And they were all on the trans train. Like, I mean, it was in Rome. There was 700 lesbians and a bunch of men in dresses, and some of them were clearly fetishists, and everyone was pretending it was all cool. So I was sneaking around trying to find some turfs, and so I was like at the lunch breaks and stuff. I was approaching older women, like, to just sort of suss them out. They were all on board. And I was really disgusted. You know that feeling of disgust when you discover, oh no, like it's like speaking to somebody who's been bitten by a zombie. What explains it?
I think it's the same in Norway. Lots of lesbians, both politicians and people who have positions in the LGBTQI organizations, in NGOs all over, are into this. And I think first of all, it's money. It's a lot of jobs. They are actually earning money on pushing this trans ideology. And also it's I personally have experienced how vilified you get if you try to stand up as a lesbian in the LGBTQI community. And it's it's this social control that it's really like meeting a wall of mob when you try to make sense but this is important for homosexuals, both men and women, that we stay on this road that sex matters and that being a homosexual is not an identity. So I think it's and also it's a lot of you have cowardness of those who doesn't work there. They want to go along, or they maybe have a project that fits into this queer community. I know all the lesbians who have said that they ate, drank, and slept feminism. They are now touring around with queer people, pretending. And then they pretend they also are on other side, but they are not. So it's but I think it's so, for me, it's like all these lesbians have and gays, they have gotten the benefit of the work that our mothers and fathers before us did. So they had all these lesbian places, all these gay places, all the fun. They could be young, they could be out dancing, flirting, drinking in a place for lesbians only. And you're young only once. And this, I was also one of them who had this. It was just fantastic to be at these places. And it really had a huge impact on my personality. It has shaped me. I can't understand how they don't care for young people who need a community and who need to be confirmed that even if you're a tomboy, you're still a girl, you're still a lesbian. If you stick out, you're still a lesbian, you're still a girl. And of course, you should have the right to gather with other lesbians without these insane men pretending to be lesbian, knocking on the door. So, but I don't have any good explanation. And
What you're describing in the system is pretty accurate, I think. Is there's an entire ecosystem set up of NGOs and all this, and then it's the people who have done a lot of damage. It's in their interest not just to keep their jobs and keep the project money coming in, but it's also in their interest to never ever admit that they may be messed up. Alison, tell me, have you had conversations with lesbians who are on the other sides, the trans women or women side, and have you tried to convince them, understand better? How far have you gotten? And we all have lost friends. I don't even have to ask you. I can assume you've lost a whole bunch of friends and even family members. But when you try it, what happens? Or do you have any particular instances of trying to get through to someone?
I usually try to do that on my TikToks. In real life, I tend to avoid the LGBTQ plus spaces and stuff. So I've not really tried to convince others apart from my TikToks. But I think from my observation, I think it comes down to a mix of feeling very isolated, using social media to try and find a community, a lot of bullying happening in their schools as well, feeling like they're not fitting in. That's another thing that may push them to identify as trans. Many of them as well may be autistic, so that's why I think sticking to facts and not conflating it is the best way to try and say, hey, you don't have to do this, you're fine as you are. So
And which facts work best?
just literal facts, like simple ones like how Magdalene Burns used them in her videos, like a lesbian is a homosexual woman, and things like just because you're a tomboy doesn't mean that you're actually male and stuff like that. Because that's the only thing that made sense to me. I feel like a lot of stuff surrounding being gay, being lesbian is now being conflated a lot of the time with identity and your political leaning, and it can make it really confusing for those that may be autistic. So I think that's why a lot of them feel like they have to cling on to this sense of identity, because I think many of them feel very unsafe because they don't have that space to go to either. And I think if you're
Can you help me understand this? So we have a young, let's say 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girl. She's in school. She's isolated, feeling isolated because she's starting to have this realization, I'm not like the other girls. She might be getting bullied. In what way is it that identifying as trans would make her, okay, I understand, less isolated because she joined a club, but probably more likely to get bullied in school for identifying as trans? Or does the club, being part of a community, like how is it that being trans is going to make you less likely to face hardship among your peers than being trans? What's that about?
So I think that young lesbians now are coming out into a world, like, or even in the school as well, where they feel like they either have to try and fit in and kind of pretend to be straight or identify as trans, because they get so much backlash for just being a lesbian and being gender non-conforming as well. So it's like now young lesbians feel like they either have to try and fit in somewhere instead of just being who they are, which is a shame because they just need a space.
If you identify as a lesbian, it's kind of like, oh, like, you're just a dyke and insults and look at her and gender non-conforming based insults and stuff. But if you suddenly come into school and say I'm trans, then the entire institution has to reshape itself around your identity.
Yeah, I think
in a way, is that
it's quite a tricky one, really, because they may even face bullying for identifying as trans, because I'm sure there are some that think that the whole thing is ridiculous and they can see it more obviously, like most of their peers are straight, so they'll probably see that there's something going on there, that the trans identifying young lesbian may be oblivious to, if, like I said, they may be dealing with things like social difficulties that come with autism as well. So it's that kind of I think it comes down to being both same-sex attracted and autistic as well. But like them being isolated doesn't help that either.
What do you think,
I
Tonje?
I think the word lesbian in some ways, somehow it has been like polluted by the transgenderism and the LGBTQ communities, and it's like presented as something dirty or nasty, or because it is so clearly that being a lesbian excludes men from lesbians' sexual orientation, and I think this for women all over to exclude men from anything can be a problem, but I think it's really provoking for men that lesbians can have a sexual orientation that does not include men, that just includes women. And I think this it has like been for years this kind of pollution against the word, and I know lots of young lesbians, they don't dare to use the words because it feels overwhelming in a not a positive way. And I also think it's like in Norway, it's like if you come out as trans, everybody's embracing you, and you are like put on a pedestal. And these organizations, they are so funded by the government and the parliament, and lots of attention. I think when you are young, you need some vulnerable young people. They need attention, and this gives them attention, and it also gives them in some way power, which they are not ready actually to handle, but they use it. And lots of the young people calling themselves trans identified or whatever, they are the ones who attack the lesbians. But I think all
Yeah.
this comes from, I mean, in Norway, we have lots of legislation like self-ID, hate crime, this gender identity thing is deep down in the legislation. And also it's like in society, like in schools, at workplaces, everybody are pushed to be part of it.
Affirmed.
Yeah, confirm. And so
Participate.
it's like, yeah, and also it's like now it's like a guideline for employees, like to not use sexed words, not use boy or girl or mother or father. So it's like really pushed into the society and culture, and then it's like most people are afraid of conflicts, or is it standing up against something which is like top down, like this is. It is
Yeah.
from the government and the parliament, and they use young people in both as like soldiers to go to war to the ones like us who don't want to be part of this, but also they use their insecurity and like all they are young and vulnerable to actually make them change their bodies in a way that is irreversible. So it's like for me it's like it's easy to blame trans activists who are young, but for me it's really important to address the politicians who have let this in to all of society and also in law.
They really do feel to me like they're the foot soldiers. Yeah, I've used that phrase before as well. It's like the Cultural Revolution in China. It's like because it's not just young lesbians, it's young people generally are, coming out in the streets with these because I know what it's like to try and organize a protest and try and get people together. And when you see the crowds that they're able to get and their signs and everything, you know that there's institutional backing, One thing that I do in my research is I do lurk in trans mask groups on Facebook and on Discord. I don't know if you're familiar with those spaces, but I mean, I should feel bad about it, but I just don't because nobody's doing any research. So I'm just, I apologize to the lesbian community, but I am in the trans mask groups trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And I'm in groups in Ireland, in France, in Belgium, the Netherlands. I'm also in the men's groups, so the autogynephilic groups, because the men who are sexually motivated to dress as women, they spend a lot of time in these groups looking at photos of themselves, sharing photos of themselves, all sorts of disgusting crap. There's one very, very big, clear difference between the groups. The women are all about the logistics. It's all about, where do I get my breasts removed? How quickly can I get it done? What is the best tram to take to get there to the clinic? How much will the insurance give me back? How long did it take to get your name changed? Did anyone ever look at you funny when your passport when you hadn't started testosterone? All this sort of stuff. It's all practical. It's like, how do I get my breasts off? How do I get it done as soon as possible? Relatively speaking, very little talk of phalloplasty and metoidioplasty, which is where I don't know if it's common in your countries, but in Belgium it's much more common to get metoidioplasty than it is to get phalloplasty, which is where we create a sort of a penis out of a large clitoris. It's kind of barbaric. But the women are all just obsessed with getting rid of their breasts. I would put it like this is the main thing. And whereas the men are completely horny. Like it's all horny, and they try and police themselves and try and be less horny about it. There is none of that in the trans masc groups. There's just none of it. And what I notice as well is that they don't really want to be men. They don't. They just don't want to be lesbians. They don't want to be women. They don't care really that much. Some of them, like a lot of them, I would say that, I mean, they do get bothered by the misgendering, but not in the same way that the men get bothered by the misgendering. But what I did notice is that it's tits, it's boobs, it's breasts that are this like unfathomable obstacle to being happy. And it's true that when you're growing up and your breasts arrive, you like it's almost like it's a bat signal, isn't it? It's like they are both your sex and they are femininity, because they're such a symbol of femininity. So they seem to be, what I've observed, they seem to be like this obstacle to me being happy. First of all, I just need this thing that I can see in my line of vision almost always. They need to go. And I know a woman whose daughter is in the exact same situation, autistic, um, dreadfully depressed, out of school, all this stuff. And I was saying to her, would she consider as a compromise, because she's 18 now, very soon, the mother has brought her to Kazakhstan for 3 months, which is like her trying to get her out of the contagion. I was saying to her, like, would your daughter consider just having a very, very extreme breast reduction surgery as opposed to getting rid of her breast? Like, and I was just talking about in theory, in principle, because when I was growing up, if you were growing up in the age of Pamela Anderson and Baywatch, it was like to have small breasts was a very, very bad thing. And so girls, when they grew up, they maybe went away and got surgery and had breast implants. Not a lot, but it was a thing. And I'm just wondering, like, the breasts seem to be such a huge part of it. And sometimes I wonder, like, if you gave these girls just another little bit of time to get over their breasts, to get used to them, and then maybe say to them, okay, well, you know what, when you're 18 or maybe 21, maybe you could have a reduction surgery. What do you think about all that? This is just based on my observations.
I can say something about that, because when I was a tomboy, and everybody thought I was a boy because I had short hair and really strong body. And as a child, I really had a good time, and then puberty arrived, and I began to get breasts, and I just hated it. It was like the first thing is like, mentally and psychologically, I was a child. And then, like, suddenly I should have this woman body, like my mother. So you're being sexual also. And they were different. They didn't wear symmetric. And I just felt like something was taking over my body. And also I was like, because I played football, all the boys, they had like upper body, bare body. And suddenly I was told, you can't have that because now you are getting tits. And also, it's like I just felt it was thrown at me. I hadn't asked for it. And the puberty, and also like the hormones, like from being like a really energetic child with lots of energy, the hormones just took me really. I was like sleeping, really sad one moment, really angry another moment. And I just hated myself. I thought I was the ugliest person on earth, and I was really afraid that people should say that loud. I felt I was looking like E.T. actually, and I think when I saw this trans train, this Swedish documentary, it was like it was a woman from Finland, and she in this documentary, she suddenly saw a photo of herself, like 14 years old. And she said, like, but I was beautiful. And I think, I mean, this is the age where we will never be as beautiful as we are in the puberty. But because of hormones, we see monsters when we look in the mirror. We don't see, it's like a psychotic picture, I think. So it's like, and I also looked back now and looked at how did I really look? And I thought, what a beautiful person.
Oh
So I
no, I
think
feel
it's
like I'm gonna
difficult.
cry.
Yeah, but I think
That's
this is
awful.
like hormones, puberty makes a girl, it affects us so negatively. While I've been talking to boys who gets like the testosterone, and it is like a superpower. They want to drink, fuck, and fight, and they have like lots of energy. So it's like really opposite.
And
So
were
I
you,
think
I'm sorry, we'll
this,
come on to you in a sec, Alison, because I'd like to hear your experience, but were you aware of that drink, fuck, fight, like the positive effects of testosterone in comparison as you were going through puberty, or is that only with reflection? Like, were you at the time saying to yourself, oh my God, they have it so much better, or were you not conscious of that? Because it comes on you really fast, or well, not even fast, but it's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Because no matter what anyone says to you is going to happen, you're just like, what the fuck is happening with my body? Like,
yeah, no, I became aware of it because I had to fight with boys, and up until puberty, I was like almost as strong. I had like it was like a fair match with almost every guy. And then I came into a fight with a boy I had fought with many times, and suddenly he just like took his arm around here, and I just noticed the superpower, and I just understood immediately that I will never have that kind of power. So now I have to
wow.
solve disagreement in another way. But I will
Oh,
also say that if anyone had
Jesus.
offered me the possibility to remove my tits, I would be the first one to do that
Right.
because I just hated them. But and when puberty was, I think I didn't get comfortable with my tits until I was like 25.
Oh, yeah, for me,
So
it was
it's
even
like,
older. I think it was
yeah.
like, for me, I was in my 30s before I finally accepted that that's just the way it is. Alison, tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, so
What do you think about the tits thing?
yeah, I nearly did wear a chest binder at one point before I found out what a turf was as well, because I was really uncomfortable as well. Um, I think social media does not help at all because you're seeing all this AI, all this pornography crap uh, under the word lesbian. It has nothing to do with real lesbians either. But it's also like all these like anime girl drawings with like these massive boobs. And I'm like, what the hell is this rubbish? It doesn't. It's ridiculous. But yeah, like I say, like young, vulnerable teenage lesbians going online to try and find a community if they're isolated, they're coming across all sorts of rubbish like pornography and really aggressive men and stuff online as well. That doesn't help at all. And not having a lesbian space to
So
go
it's kind
to
of a
either.
paradox,
Because
isn't
you
it?
just want men to leave you alone. You're a
Yeah,
lesbian, you just want to be attracted, like feel attractive to women only. But you just want men to leave you the hell
but
alone.
it's a paradox, isn't it? Because on the one hand, according to this framing, these women are seeing men online and how they treat women and how women are treated in comparison and how women are supposed to look and be and feel and move around the world
Yeah.
in comparison. I think, oh, I want none of that. But then they ostensibly are trying to turn themselves into men. Is that would you analyze that and say that's in a way to like get the upper hand, like to sort of take on that role of the it's not because these women don't seem very domineering, like they don't seem like they want to be the man about town. They really don't. Like they're much more like they want to shy
Yeah.
away
It's more of a it's more
everything.
of a way for these young lesbians to protect themselves, I think. Because if they kind of identify as a man, then they'll probably have some more control over themselves because they feel very vulnerable as women, young women especially, moving around in a society that's basically built for men. Especially if you're a lesbian, you just kind of feel out of place most of the time. So because they don't have that space to go to, it's really going to impact their mental health. It's going to make them feel even more out of place than they already do. They're going to really struggle with how they see themselves as well. They won't really have a strong self-image. They don't. I mean, I never felt attractive either, honestly. So I get where Tonje's coming from. Yeah.
And was it just in terms of, sorry if this is too intimate, but in terms of like, which was the bigger problem, like the arrival of periods or the breasts? Sorry, this
Oh
is
no,
very
don't worry.
intimate, but because I like, tell me.
I'd say periods for me because they're so painful. I get the worst periods ever. Yeah, that absolutely sucks. I also
Mhm.
think the pronoun stuff, if they identify as a man, so like usually like things can get quite annoying when like say like grown women are called pet names like by random men and it just gives you the ick. That's probably why they identify as a trans man or something to kind of escape the way women are kind of like talked at as well. It's quite annoying. So that's probably why they're protecting themselves.
Because I sort of feel like that all that happened, what you're talking about, that all happened to me as well. And I just was like, oh, this is a game and I have to play it. I have to play this game. And then I just leaned into it, you know? And I felt like things, men start sexualizing you from when you're well before your period. Like, I see it now in my daughter. She's so beautiful. She's only 9 and you've already got creeps all over her, and I'm just ready to punch faces at this point. Like, and she's only 9. And we talked about it the other day and I was saying to her, like, I was trying to prepare her a little bit for what's already happening, You sort of have to shrink yourself, don't you? You sort of have to go along with things and be the sort of you didn't do that. You were like, I don't know. I see these women in these groups and they're just opting out of it. They're just 100% opting out of it. Saying, I'm absolutely not doing that. And as you say, yeah, maybe as a protection, but definitely not because they want to be the man. Like, I don't really see that. Have you met any lesbians who are transitioning or want to transition who actually do really want to be a man?
I'm sure many of
Or do
them,
they even understand what that means?
yeah, I'm sure many, if they had the chance, if the possibility that you could change sex, of course they'd want to be a man because you just get respected more, basically. Yeah, that's what I think.
Right. Have you noticed this? I don't know if you've noticed this phenomenon, but one day the testosterone suddenly works really well and they do pass as men, and then that's a shock because men are treated differently in society, and so they come into these groups and they're just sort of like, on the one hand, they get treated like cis men, so that they're no longer invited in queer spaces, or they pass so well that when they're in these queer spaces, people are wary of them, which they don't like either. Because they're like, no, I'm one of you, but then also sometimes I've seen women saying, they're passing so well. I'm just paraphrasing now, but they're passing so well that people are actually treating them like men and they're not sure that they like it. And sometimes they'll stop testosterone as a result, and then do a bit more non-binary stuff. Do they even know what, like, I mean, okay, I see what you mean. Yes, they would if they could wake up in the morning and actually be men, they would choose that. But I don't even know, in the same way that autogynephiles have no idea what it is to be a woman, like, I don't think women can really understand what it is that they're saying when they say, I want to be a man. Like,
I think it's generally down to the way women are treated across the world, socially, and the way that we're just looked down on as well. It's also the discomfort with having a female body as well, because you've got the hormones that make like your boobs really hurt as well at certain points in your cycle if you do have the periods. And of course, I'd say female centered healthcare in regards to period related issues, it's just not been well researched either. So there's also that as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think also it's like it's because society offers this lie that you can change sex or you can remove body parts. They didn't do that when I was young, so it's like it's actually like society, medicine, pharmacy, politicians. They are targeting young girls who they at the same time admit are very vulnerable and need protection. But all these, you have the porn, you have the puberty that they have, and the pressure from outside about how women should look,
Yeah.
and everything. And then you have this possibility to this lie to change identity, to like rearrange some like your body. And I think that's the nasty part, that actually the society are targeting young girls and women, so and present to them that you can be whatever you like, this totally false dream. And I think in the kind of society we are living, it's like if this is what you're used to, this is what's presented, it's like then you try to think about what I have some kind of hurt inside me. I don't know what it is, but I think maybe I will feel better if I do some changes on my body, or like identify as something else. So I think, and that's what I like with the 19 stories in the book. It's this resistance from the young lesbians that they and I think it's important to focus on when young lesbians have self-confidence in some way. It's much more difficult to get them down this trans train road.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and when we like support them in what they actually experience and their thoughts, it's easier for them to just stay in themselves and trust the
So we need to
way.
figure a way to reach them and give them
Yeah.
confidence and say,
Yeah.
I am what I am, and not, and
Yeah.
because the worst thing possible is to send them to an LGBTIQ group, because, you know, very few people escape that, that Bermuda Triangle. So why did you choose a book then to do this? Because I'm thank you so much for making it. I love it. I'm just worried that you won't be able to get it out anywhere. I'm like, what are you going to do to get it into people's hands? Like, what can other TERFs do to make sure that it gets disseminated as widely as possible? And what
Oh,
have you
it's a
tried
lot.
already?
Yeah, but it actually it has sold quite well. So it's because it's
Oh, very good.
now globally it's a big network with women and lesbians working together.
Awesome.
I think it's just to get it out there, and I also been contacted by young lesbian thanking me and Alison for the book and how important it is. So I think the main group is young lesbians, but it's also anyone who cares about young girls lesbians. So, and I'm just we will get it out there without like the main media, but with
Did you approach the mainstream media and ask around, or how did it go?
not in Norway yet, because I wanted
Okay. And
to. I
in
think the main market is like in UK, Germany, France, but we also been contacted by French people who want to translate the book to French, and also from Taiwan to translate the book to Taiwan and find like publisher house. So I think this is like subcultural book, a little icon that can, and it's like so tiny and easy. And I also have to say, I
Can
really
you show me a
like
copy?
the
Nice.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which is like Alison and Miranda, and I think to read these stories when you're young, it goes. Of course, it can break your heart, but it's also give you strength. So it's like it's just to use the network we have and try to get it more out there. So
Did you try
yeah.
the UK, Alison? What was the response, or what was the reaction like?
Yes, so me and Tonje went to the LGBT Alliance conference a few weeks ago, and we did the panel with Miranda, and it was really well received, and we sold a lot of copies of the books as well. And we went on GB News as
Awesome.
well.
Oh, very
Yes.
good. I'll put a link to that. Awesome. It's so good that you're doing this. Thank you so much. Every contribution to this fight really is welcome, isn't it? But this is a really massive one. I have another sort of comment, I suppose, on the situation for lesbians, and I wonder what you think of it. It was okay to be a gay man for quite a while before it was okay to be a gay woman. I noticed from what I observed, in that you'd have men who you knew were gay or who were openly gay in your workplace about 10 years before you'd ever meet a woman who says, yeah, me and my partner, and say that was their partner was a woman. It felt to me like you had like 15 minutes, and it was sometime in around, like it was sometime in around 2015-ish. Tell me what you think of my personal observations, where you had a moment where it was okay where it wasn't, I'm not saying okay as in permission, but I mean, it was just sort of a thing that happened that women would admit in the workplace or in other social gatherings that they were in partnerships with women. And then it was gone. It was so like this moment, it was almost getting mainstreamed, I found, like, but I had known out gays for longer, and I'm not talking about in the community. I'm talking about like in the mainstream, like Ellen. That Ellen thing that happened in the 90s or whatever when Ellen came out. But I feel like where I lived in this period in Ireland and in Belgium, so in Europe generally, you just got started being mainstream and then it was gone. I suppose you move in different circles, so you don't see that, but I think of this often, and it makes me super sad to think about how short this time was before it all got queered, and it makes me really angry.
But I also think that's because it's just because gay men are men, and they are like in high positions, and they get a lot of attention in media, and they have all these cultural sexual problems that are spoken about, but it's really rare that it's anything about lesbians in the mass media. So I think also, I don't know how this is, but I think from 2000 until 2015, it was like lots of women in Norway, lesbians, who were like open about it. But I think today it's better to just shut up, because you are like the first question you will get is like, are you a TERF? What do you
Yeah.
think about trans women and all these things? So it's better to go underground, like in a subculture again. So, but I think your observation is right, but I think it's about gay men, they always get the attention, and they work in media, they own some medias, so it's like, yeah, it's just the same as with heterosexual women. It's always, it's like the men get more attention in media.
It's funny that you
and
said that they have cultural and social problems. I guess we're talking also about public health stuff as well. The thing is, lesbians don't cause any problems for anyone. There's no problems to fix with lesbians. You just are, you're just out there,
Yeah,
not
but in
causing
Norway, it's
any.
like in Norway you have like this you have some like healthcare for LGBT blah blah, and it has been like huge amounts going into gay men's healthcare, nothing
Of course.
almost for lesbians, and lesbians have like other symptoms like depression, maybe drink too much, other bodily things, but it's like I have talked to the people who worked there in this healthcare, and they say they make almost the same applications, like but it's like men, women, and men get, women do not get. So this is like also actually some kind of
That's an issue.
governmental, like I think it's like, in some way it's really sad to just say it, but it's very few that cares about lesbians. Also,
Yeah.
when lesbians try to raise their voice, it's like they don't get into media or anything, but just a gay man can say, oh, I can't have a child, I surrogacy, and then it's like all over media, like poor gay man. So it's like, it's a really big difference between lesbians and homosexual men. So, but I really hope that these new LGBT organizations, I think LGBT Alliance have done a really brilliant job, and also this year, like Gen Z with the young lesbians and gay and bisexual was quite a lot of them. And I think when you're young and lesbian or gay, find those organizations and where they actually respect what the homosexual is. Don't go into this
Stay away from the
TQ
queer
thing. Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah. Just stay away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And find other lesbians and women organizations in the web, because they are there. And I think this is the importance of the book. Like, all these 19 didn't know about each other, and now some of them think, but we are a community. Can we make a community? And I think maybe we have like a website, and I think Alison maybe will we will do something together to make them come together, actually, because they have done each story is so important, and they have been stubborn and said, like, I want to tell this story, even though some of them don't trust politicians or society anymore. They have this kind of good force in them that I think is like really important to highlight,
to exploit.
Yeah.
Tell me, Alison, what's the plan then for the future? What kind of things do you have in mind for the community?
I haven't really thought that far yet, but I think just getting word of our book and getting it out there, hopefully that will raise more awareness on what young lesbians are facing in these times. Because even like I felt that most of the lesbian stuff on the internet didn't resonate with me as much as Magdalene Byrne's videos did. I'd say that was the closest thing I could relate to out of anything under the word lesbian on the internet when I was searching up what TERF and everything was. It's crazy at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so important, like, for all young women to have someone to look
Yeah.
up to. I know it sounds corny, but it really is that, to have someone to look up to and say, she's cool, I want to be like that. And so this is what we need to get in front of them somehow, is like, yeah, it's going to be a big job. It's going to be difficult, but I appreciate you two so much, and everyone who contributed to the book. And I will link you can send me the links to wherever anyone can buy it. I guess it's available all over Europe. My podcast is mostly Americans, actually, but I have a lot of readers in Europe. But we can get it shipped anywhere at the moment, or what's the deal?
Yeah, it's I sell them from home, actually, but I can get them shipped to anywhere. So yeah.
Okay, well, let's do our best to boost that as much as we can. Thank you both for talking to me, and I wish you all the best with the next steps and going forward. And I can't wait to see the results of the project in the long term.
No, thank you for having us on. It's been
Have a
really good.
lovely
Yeah.
day. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Have a lovely day.
Thanks,
You
you
too.
too.
Bye. If you like my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter by going to peaked.substack.com and taking out a paid subscription.